Ladies and gentlemen, so we are going to interview a cool person, and I've got none other than look who it is.
On the way up!
When I'm done ejaculating.
On the way up!
We are headed to the city to go and interview a very interesting character, so stay tuned, it's going to be a really cool vlog.
Straight to the moon, Bitcoin all the way.
Dollar vigilante, all up in your hearsay. Dropping crypto knowledge, making the ladies go cray cray. Baby, I'm old school, and you the new jack. I've been rocking long Bitcoin since a hey long way back track. 6 years ago, a friend of mine told me to say some Bitcoin rhymes, so I bought some Bitcoin around $3 that day. Now it's 2K on its way to 10K. Fuck you, Ben Bernanke.
Hey guys, Mitch Sanders here. I'm with Nathan Birch and a gentleman that I've looked up to and been following for quite some time, Jeff, who just happened to be in Sydney when we were here.
Yeah.
And Nathan, twisted my arm, and he's looked up to you for quite some time, and
Yeah.
I've been following since. You talked about Ethereum at $10 in the newsletter, and
It was actually $2.
it was $2. Sorry, done really well from it, and got a lot of respect for you. There's a lot of things you talk about, on the esoteric side of things that I'm not really comfortable sharing on YouTube or publicly, and it's really nice to see someone balls to the wall just going, fuck everything, fuck the banks, fuck the government. And I thought it's a great opportunity for us to sit down and have a conversation. So welcome, thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I just got in from Perth. You guys booked me a hotel room here, really nice. So very happy to do
That's thanks to him. He has his cool.
And quite humbled, obviously, to have the opportunity and the time to spend with you. Just obviously with the knowledge that you share at the Dollar Vigilante as well, and it's really cool that you share that. And awesome.
And for those that haven't seen it, one of the things that talks to the ability of Jeff and the confidence he has in what he shares. You were doing a video, like a rap video out the front of the Federal Reserve.
On a truck.
On a truck, just basically saying like, fuck the banks, fuck the Federal Reserve,
Fuck you, Ben Bernanke.
You too, yelling.
Yelling, let's see what you're selling.
Dead space Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, something like that.
It's really cool. So you call yourself an anarcho-capitalist. And do you want to just share a little bit about what that is?
Sure. An anarchist, most people don't understand what it means. The media's really tried to screw that word up for decades, probably maybe even centuries, but definitely decades. And they make it seem like it's all chaos and it's people who want to blow things up. All the word means is a Greek word, and without archy rulers. And so really, when you're an anarchist, what you really believe is that you don't believe in human slavery. You don't believe people should be slaves. So that's quite the opposite of what a lot of people really think. And then capitalism as well has been really skewed by the media on purpose. Again, they do this all on purpose. Even the word liberal used to be a decent word. It used to mean basically what I am used to be what they call classical liberal. But when they realized that this is like gonna, they can't control everyone if everyone just doesn't believe in authority. They changed that word too. So they changed the word liberal to mean what it means today, which I don't know what it means exactly in Australia, but in the US, it basically means socialist. And the word capitalism as well, they really want to make a lot of people very confused about the word. The word really just generally means free markets. It means people can trade freely. That's really the general essence of what it means. But of course, the way that they skew it in the media now is that, capitalism, that's what they have in the US today, which is corporatism, which is fascio-communism, which is really crapitalism is what I call it. It's basically... Yeah.
I was going to say that. In America, they see themselves as capitalists, but you don't see that at all, right?
There is some capitalism, but that's not... when you have the government involved, when you have taxes, extortion, when you have regulation, when you have a central bank, which legally has the right to force you to use its currency, which is legal tender laws. And a central bank is a tenet of communism. So you've got complete fascism and complete communism in the U.S. And they pointed out, and they go, a lot of people will say, hey, I don't really like what's going on there. Neither do I. But it's not because of capitalism. It's because of fascism, socialism, communism, central banking, and all these things that need to just go away.
Oh,
absolutely.
I look at it here in Australia, and I call ourselves a free-range communist. So we're like a free-range chicken. You know, we believe that we're free, and we go to the 12-year indoctrination camp, as you always say. And
yeah, that's really what happened. Is a few hundred years ago, people started to wake up. So hundreds of years ago, people were like, well, there's a king and a queen, and I always like the Monty Python movies. They really did a good job of showing how stupid it is. This guy comes up, he's like, I'm your king, and they're like, what? Like, I've never heard of you. And he's like, well, I found a sword in the lake. And they're like, get out of here. But a few hundred years ago, they had these kings and queens, and these people were trying to control everyone, and they're trying to basically tax, extort them, and say, we get most of the things that you do. We'll give you a place to live or whatever. And people started to wake up. And I guess it was around France, probably in the 1800s or something around that time. I'm not a historian guy because I actually believe that I don't believe anything I'm told about history because it's almost all lies. But it sounds like what happened is a lot of people said, hey, this isn't working. Let's have more freedom. And that really engendered a century or two of complete amazing stuff going on. And all of a sudden, everyone came out of poverty. All of a sudden, the whole world was getting so much better. And the same people who are the kings and queens, and there's still a few around, like the Queen of England, who's from Germany, by the way, which no one really seems to know.
Saxe-Coburg.
People in England are like, oh, the Queen, she's great.
And unfortunately, here in Australia, like, we're part of this. Like,
we bow down to it at every chance we get.
Well, I don't know.
Well, we don't do it willingly, obviously, but
but we're sucked into it.
She's got her picture and the money and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But what happened was a lot of people started waking up. They said, "Oh, we need a new plan. We're losing control." And their new plan was democracy, and it's a genius plan. They said, "We'll tell them that they are in control of everything. They get to decide by voting every now and then." And so
voting,
but. It's not direct voting, right? You don't get to decide exactly. You get to vote for a guy who's going to go and promise you he's going to do something, which they never do what they promise. And they just completely just kept everything, all the slavery going, to the point where everyone in the world today is almost basically a slave in various forms, and they don't even realize it.
We had something similar that happened, like, the Australian government spent some ridiculous amount of money, like $50 million on the voting system, and it was all done on pencil and paper. They didn't want to, have iPads or, a blockchain-based system to be able to record keep, like, legitimate voting, but it was more secure for them to use a piece of paper with a pen that can be rubbed out. And
you can burn paper pretty easy, like the fiat currency that we use, but I've always thought it's humorous and that we get born into this system, which you get a birth contract to, and you get indoctrinated to that. You get given two options when it comes time to vote, as always, with every country around the world.
And ironically, here it's Liberals and Labour.
Yeah,
they're our two parties,
and they're very closely aligned, right? They're much the same. They come out of the same printing press, just like the dollars that we use. And the other thing that I find funny is that we have like three sort of media outlets, propaganda outlets that we get to listen to. And the thing that I've found of recent times, which is really, really interesting, and I know that you did a video recently of it where you had all the TV shows and the TV stations, but I wanted to take a look at and zoom out from that angle. If we look at all of the countries around the world, they've all got plastic bag bans. They've all got straw bans. They've all got a property crash. They all had a property boom, right? US, UK, Canada, Australia, the Netherlands, even the Philippines, right? Property prices unaffordable, and now we're all in a decline. The property market
easing back.
Easing.
Absolutely.
And we've also got all the currencies dying. If we look at even the Aussie dollar here, we're 15% less than what we were at the start of the year. And that just
literally from 80 cents US to 70 cents right now, and it's still on the decline.
Whether it's Turkey, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, Australia, Canada, UK, they're all collapsing. And I know you came out and said by 2020, back in when you started the TDV newsletter,
I said I started in 2010, and I said by the end of the decade, all these currencies will collapse. And I think we're still very on track for that. We won't be out by a couple of years, but like it's looking right on track. All the debt, you look at everything. It's funny you mentioned how much the Australian dollar's declined. I went to a version of 7-Eleven. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a convenience store here in Perth, Australia. I bought a couple things, some chips.
What, $47?
$40, yeah. And I luckily I brought some cigarettes from Mexico, which cost $2 a pack US.
Oh, we're $42 here.
Yes, $42. I was looking at the numbers. I was like, that must be for like 10 or something. It's for one pack, 20, 30, 40
$10 10 individual cigarettes, more like it.
At one point in the future, you go to the 7-Eleven, you buy a cigarette for $10 or $12. You don't be buying them like literally at that point. It's crazy.
It's really interesting, like, because when you look at the way that the currency, like, it's just recently, like we've been talking about it for a while with Mitch's people and whatnot, about, the actual, the bond yields and the US bond, the 10-year, which is what all the debt around the world is based on. And I think once it hits 3.2, it will go very quickly to 3.5 and go off the charts, which will crash everything and will be the death of the dollar. And we're there right now.
Like it literally happened yesterday, the 3.2.
The debt of the U.S. government in 2008, which is only 10 years ago, was about $8 trillion. It's currently at $21.5 trillion. It's almost tripled in the last 10 years. You look at the student loan debt, it's the biggest debt bubble in the U.S. right now. Trillions of dollars of wasted time and money for useless pieces of paper.
That you can never get out of. Like, you die, it goes to your parents. They die, it goes to their parents.
Is that the case?
That's actually the case.
I didn't know it was
that bad. Bankrupt out of student
I know you can't bankrupt out of it, but does it actually go generations?
It
goes generations, and the other aspect of it, like we hear about this everything bubble out there. So if we look back to the GFC, I've coined this sort of term, which is the GFD, the Global Financial Depression, which if you look back in 2008 when the GFC came, it was $7.5, $8 trillion worth of bad banks and bad institutions that caused bad things, which was derivatives. And if you look at it now, Deutsche Bank, which you go and Google this.
I can't believe it still exists.
$75 trillion in derivatives. And then we've got 1.2 quadrillion worth of derivatives in the markets. It's a time bomb for everything. Like, it's not a real...
And he said this the best, actually. 2008, Lehman Brothers, AIG, all of these companies crashed, and we all saw that. But now countries and currencies are collapsing. And like not just one, like 5 in 6 months kind of thing. It really is the everything bubble, which this is the hairs on the back of my neck.
On the way here today, actually, I was talking to someone just about property and stuff, and when I was on the phone to him, I was talking to him about like Bitcoin, and let's assume that whatever country you're in, and this is a really cool thing. I've never heard anyone talk about it in this context, but I was thinking about it. If Bitcoin was 10 grand, let's say it was stable at 10 grand, and back in January this year, it was $1.30 to $1, so it would have been like $13,000 for your 10 grand US Bitcoin. If Bitcoin just stayed at $10 and the actual currency collapsed and it went to $1.50, for example, that Bitcoin in that currency is a hedge against their actual currency, which is dying. Your 10 grand US is still 10 grand US, but in your local area, you're actually looking instead of $13,000, $15,000 for your Bitcoin. If it goes to $20,000, $30,000, the coin value doesn't even have to change. It's actually pegged as a stabilization and a hedge against the currency.
A lot of people say, where's the US dollar price of Bitcoin going to be in 5 years? I'm like, I'm not
sure
the US dollar will exist. Not in its current form. Something's going to have to happen. Yeah. It'll either hyperinflate to worthlessness, or there'll be a massive financial crash and all the banks will close. There's no way to know this. Like, as you just pointed out, this bubble is so much bigger than anything. Anything that's even 2008 was nothing compared to this.
Yeah.
Because
2008 was too big to fail as well.
Yeah, this time it's too big to bail.
That's actually right. Yeah. So we're gonna, like, people might be watching this right now and going, oh, I've heard this before or whatever. Just look back at this video 1 or 2 years from now, maybe 3, and just go, holy cow, they were right. And we're freaking living in caves right now trying to like figure out how to live at the moment.
If you look at the debt-based system we've got, like people feel richer because they've been using their property as an ATM and everything's going up in value, they're feeling wealthier. But that only comes down to the fact that there's been more money being printed and liquidity in the system. Looking at the actual flow of things, like debt becomes irrelevant with inflation. So I look at debt attached to an asset which will be inflated. You're going to be paying off today's debt with tomorrow's dollars. People's properties haven't gone up. They've just, the dollar's been worth less.
That's sort of a bit of the game plan is they know everything's so indebted, so they're now going to inflate the currency so much that it'll wash away a lot of that debt. But this is going to be worse than the Great Depression times 10. Or 100. People won't even remember the Great Depression after this one. And it doesn't have to be that bad as long as enough people wake up, right? Because if what happens is, for example, we're sitting here in a nice hotel in Sydney, Australia right now. This hotel will not disappear when this all happens. All the assets will still be there. The hope of mine is that we get through this collapse, everyone gets wiped out, but we go very free market very quickly with things like cryptocurrencies and all that stuff. And you look at places like Singapore or Hong Kong or Dubai. Singapore 50 years ago was like a fishing village. It just
quite literally, boats coming into a port.
Literally, there was a couple guys with fishing rods there. And look at it now, right? Look at Dubai. It was just the desert. I don't know how long ago, 20 years ago. Now you got indoor skiing malls and all that kind of stuff. All
there's been this entertainment parks in the entire world, and they're indoors because it's so hot. Like
and that all happened. And that all happened because those areas basically had very low taxation, very low regulation. When you have freedom, it can build very quickly. So even if we have a complete wipeout during this next collapse, and we will have a complete wipeout, as long as governments and central banks just kind of go away, and as long as enough people keep their head a little bit, and this is why I do what I do, I'm like trying to prepare everyone for what's coming. If that can happen, within a couple of years, everything will be fine. It will actually be way better than we are right now. That's the thing that a lot of people say, I'm a doomsdayer, or all these kind of things.
I've got a thought on that as well. Like, I think that a lot of people can have that opinion and that view, but I actually find it as an exciting time because at any time in history, if we go back through any of the depressions, the recessions, any countries failing, currencies failing, that's ever happened throughout history, I know Josh from World Alternative Media always talks about the 1024 AD, the first hyperinflation from China, and the actual currency was the first fiat currency that happened in the collapse. And looking at it, whenever you have a time of turmoil, there's opportunities. What I got from viewing the TDV channel and all the stuff that you put out in the newsletters and whatnot is that there's opportunities there. Weak hands go to strong hands, right? And if you educate yourself, you have the opportunity to be the strong hand rather than the weak hand. It doesn't matter whether it's on the crypto front, on the on the system front, and
what that's the weak hand is that the person that's pulling equity out of their property to buy the new flat screen TV, the nicer car,
or putting their money into savings,
which is getting the 5% per annum, that when inflation's 5.5%, and
where are you getting 5%? The US banks is like 0.25
on paper.
Yeah, flashback to his childhood.
In Australia, we have about a 4.5%, but inflation's 5.5. Exactly. So leaving your money in savings is actually making you go backwards, but it makes you feel better when you look at the account because it feels like it's going up. But that's because most people that are doing that as a strategy, they don't understand, that you want to have multiple buckets, multiple ways in order for you to be making money. And like Nathan always says, the times when the Great Depression does hit, you'll be able to buy a house with a free Ferrari for the price of what a house was. Because, these people will be so desperate for liquidity, so desperate for cash.
That's totally the case. So the real goal here for anyone who's awake is to retain some of your assets through this crisis, right? So most people are going to lose in some way or another because a lot of stuff's going to go to zero. But if you got some crypto, you got some precious metals, maybe some properties, like these aren't going to just disappear. You will be in a position so far ahead of everyone else because they've all bought into. Well, no one has any money anymore. Like literally, like no one in the U.S. They're living paycheck to paycheck now. They're all in debt actually. So this actually will kind of help them in a weird way, but it's going to be kind of difficult for a little period of time. But those people who have assets at this period in time, when this happens, the sky's the limit of what you can.
You were saying that on another interview that every new baby born in the United States acquires 250 grand of negative debt.
Yeah,
as you're born.
Yes, that's U.S. government debt, because when you add up the total debt, which is $21.5 trillion now, but if you add in the just using generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, which I'm sure you know as a businessman, that with the Medicare and Social Security and all that kind of stuff, it's something like 200 trillion in debt. When you get a calculator, you can do that big of numbers and divide it by
an E and a 5.
And E and all that stuff. But you type in like 200 trillion divided by 315 million odd people in the U.S., it's about $250,000 per person. So every family of 4 in the U.S. has $1 million worth of U.S. government money that's already been spent that they're supposed to pay back at some point.
And that's now. That's not into the future.
That's right now.
If you look back throughout history books and when these central banks get installed, like we obviously know that little Kim had a visit from Hollywood recently, and we've got our president. And he signed up to a central bank too. And it was funny.
And he held out for so long.
The day after,
for so long.
The day after he signed up, I saw in the news, local news, and it said, Iran, nuclear weapons, we need to go and take them out. It's the last one that doesn't have those supports.
Yeah, that's always the goal, is to install a central bank. Libya, when Hillary Clinton attacked there, and she laughed so much about how Muammar Gaddafi got literally raped with a pipe on live television. That was freaking... She was just cackling away. I don't want to see anyone have to go through that stuff.
Yeah.
And
unless it's Hillary.
Even her, I don't want to see anyone have to go through that. She was just laughing away. But the very next day, so they bomb Libya, the U.S. terrorist organization, and the CIA and all those people. Yeah. They bomb it. Terrible terrorist act of killing so many people. The very next day, it was in the news. Libya has just installed a central bank.
And it's what I realized is that within 6 months of anyone trying to create their own currency, and it actually brings up a good point. On the 26th of March here, all the countries, like our Prime Minister back then, you've probably forgotten about him because we've had so many of them in our country. We've got everyone every month because there's a socialist communist. But with it, he got flown over to Hollywood, to the White House. And,
same thing.
And he had a meeting with Trump. And what happened on the 26th of March this year is actually China had started trading the yuan futures, which was they're creating their own currency, right? Before they actually go mainstream, they're trading all against yuan, and it was trading higher than the US, but they've got more population, so if there was an actual war, it would be not beneficial to do that. So the trade war started, and all the nations got called into Hollywood. Sorry, I keep getting confused. It's the White House. And with it, they started this trade war, which is a pledge of allegiance from each nation giving a dowry. And the Australian government went over there with the $2.5 trillion worth of super funds or 401ks, as you'd see in the US, and actually pledged our superannuation accounts that the people are working with. If you noticed in February, Trump closed Congress, right? As you said, Congress, yeah? Congress. Congress, yeah.
Constitution, all the same thing.
Yeah, he froze government and said we'll re-engage it in September, and he gave an interim sort of agreement that they'd do, and he actually did a deal to create financial instruments out of the derivatives from the Australian super fund. So then we got let free of the trade war, but everyone's currencies are dying because they're trying to pump it all up. And the interesting thing to see is that within 6 months of these terrorists, these people that were executed live on TV, as you said, like Gaddafi, within 6 months of trying to create their own currency, killed. Saddam killed.
Wanted to create he actually wanted to trade euros for oil instead of oil.
And now we've got China.
Yeah. No, it's obvious what's going on, but they don't tell the people on the television programming what's actually going on.
And, this guy's got weapons.
Of course. It's all a big
and it was even a couple of months before that little Kim was, had the weapons, and what was the target? It was literally night and day between the, once he signed. And
I look at the you can't trust the propaganda outlets, but if you go and look back, there was actually a deal done where China looked after North Korea in the Korean War. And when you go into it, I don't know if you've researched it or not, but China actually saved North Korea, and they did a deal which said that if we ever go to war, you're equally liable for us. So you can see over the last 5 years they've been building that South China Sea in China and building out the military complex over there. And, little Kim, he had an agreement with China, so if you can disarm China as you're trying to attack them on a trade war, you've actually taken away the military. So it's very interesting timing that they install this, central bank in there too.
I actually wasn't aware that they did a North Korean central bank. So there's so many things going on, I can't even keep up with them. But yeah, that's very interesting. That makes total sense. That's, Iran's next. They've been talking about this for a while. I want to get to Iran. Actually, I'm trying to get there in the next few months before they bomb Iran, which is John McCain, the great hero, who they just spent a week doing
morning.
What a great hero. That was what he said, is bomb Iran, and he was just a massive terrorist, John McCain. And so Iran's one of the last places left that don't have a central bank that's controlled by the same people who control all the central banks, the Rothschild families and all those sort of people.
It's funny, actually, I probably need to upgrade my security here now after I say this one with you, but it's very interesting that when you go to the central bank's websites all around the world and actually look at, they've got copyright symbols on them, and you look at like crest of arms, coat of arms, they don't have those sort of things, and actually identify themselves as a privately owned, as a independent central bank that reports to that actual nation's government. Right? It's
and it reports as much or as little as it wants to.
Exactly. On behalf of. Yes. So if you're reporting to, you're obviously not the person, right?
Like, it's really genius, the central bank.
Oh, it is genius. You've got to take your hat off to them.
Yeah, like they're the best sort of capitalists that you can imagine. They've managed to take over the entire world and tell people that things are totally the opposite of what they actually are. Like, they're absolutely genius. And I mean capitalists, like, in the sense that, like, they'll make a ton of money from doing it. But it's really just wrong, and it's time that people wake up. And it's just, central banking just destroys the world so much. So that's what makes crypto so great, is finally we have, gold and silver are great, and I love it, and I own more gold and silver than I have crypto. But crypto is the first time we have the ability to transact across the world in a second, and no one can stop it. And it's a limited money supply, so it's a sound money, Bitcoin, or whatever crypto you're using. And
you can't print it, you can't get angry at it, you can't threaten it, you can't tell it to stop, beautiful. Or you're gonna take trade away from it. It's gonna keep doing its thing.
I can actually thank Mitch on behalf of introducing me to Bitcoin and crypto. It was really interesting when I found out about it, because Mitch, you were in it since so early days, like 2011.
2013,
and he was mining it, and he was telling me about it, and I heard about it, and I was like, that sounds like a scam, as most people do when they get introduced to it. And about 6 months later, I saw him talking about it, and it had gone up a lot, and I threw $500, and I saw it go up and double, and I was like,
this is when we were buying ant shares at like $1 when it was still called ant shares.
Way before EOS, when Ethereum was $2 when you're recommending it. And it's something that I actually had thought, and I went to one of my business partners that's an accountant, and I've spoken about creating some sort of gold or silver backed currency with weighted shells and video cameras to be able to surveillance it, and people could, and you just tax it on the way, and that would be the business model, but then no one would have to pay tax within that ecosystem ever again. And I realized after I bought it, Mitch had told me about this thing, and I laughed, and I was like, this thing's, crazy. And then I bought some, and then I didn't even know what I was buying into. I was like, this looks like pretty cool. And I threw like $500.
The exact words that he used was, go buy me a beer, you dickhead, with this Bitcoin. Like.
We're in the pub, actually. And it wasn't until I saw it go up in value, within a week of buying it. And I thought, that's pretty cool. What am I buying here, right? And I went and researched into it. And when I got my head around it, I was like, I know this fiat Ponzi scheme's a scam, right? And I've used debt and different sort of financial instruments to benefit from out of this marketplace. And we can't, hate on it too much, because you can become successful for it. But the whole scam, I was going to say the whole system, but I'm saying scammy, the same thing, is just, it's made up on this Ponzi scheme, and crypto, that day that I found out about it, I literally grew this long beard. I didn't leave my house. If someone wanted to come and see me, 22-hour days, just like I was building mining farms and all different stuff. And it's a game changer for humanity, you know, like, and as Mitch always says, it's like, you know, people that get into cryptocurrencies are so early to the game that they don't know, you know, that they're so early to the game because of what it can offer as peace and prosperity and whatnot. But, you know, people don't know, or people may not know what they need until they need it. And, you know, everyone thinks everything's fine. And I've told people, you know, I always like to think about what I'm talking about and think, I'm giving you tomorrow's news today, rather than when you go to your propaganda outlet and it's a munched up, you know, blended version of it, and it's 6 months ago news tomorrow, and looking at the aspect of, you know, the people that are in it and involved, you know, like the crypto market, people may not think they need it. They may think everything's happy, but until you know, in Venezuela, I think you posted the egg carton recently.
This happens all the time. Like, people get lulled into a state of complacency. So even when Greece had their major banking problems, that's still ongoing. But I remember around 2013, basically putting out.
We've been talking for 30 minutes already.
It's actually a government regulation that makes it do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if they do longer than 30 minutes, they have to...
We might get some truth out.
it's because then it becomes a video camera, and then they have to charge an extra tax. So, yeah.
We just had a quick intermission. So you were saying about...
Yeah, it was actually a government-regulated DSLR...
yeah, 30 minutes. So, like, nah, all the good comes out at 31 minutes, so we got to cut here. So
when I turned around and looked at the camera and it has Canon EOS on it, I was thinking, you know, EOS wouldn't be doing that, right? It's a fake EOS. We'll talk about that later.
So you were saying you reached out to a lot of people in Greece who you were telling just before the bank shut to pull your money out.
Yeah, so even in the U.S., that's what the mainstream media is there to do. The mainstream media is owned by the same people who own the government, who own the central banks. You mentioned it's all Hollywood. It's literally all just propaganda, all of it. And that's what they're meant to do. So if you turn on CNBC in the U.S. right now, they'll be like, the stock market's up or down, and everything's fine, and you should invest in mutual funds, and here's this guy. And it's like...
And they're like, buy Netflix, and buy Amazon.
And the FANG stocks, and FANG Plus stocks, and they're going to be the new banks. They're going to be the new banks. You see the deplatforming of Alex Jones, not that I agree with it, like the stuff he says or whatever, but free speech, freedom of speech is like, it's the deplatforming of people. The fact that these places are actually going to turn into the next banks and media outlets combined.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time, but the real point is that most people have no idea, and the government's not going to tell you. Donald Trump's not going to come on television and tell you that we're pretty close to everything just going to zero right now. The CNBC, the mainstream media is not going to tell you. In fact, all they're going to tell you is fear propaganda. They're meant to keep you in a fear state. It's actually a hypnosis state. So when you see people watching television programming, it's called programming for a reason. Just look at someone when they're watching the television, especially when they're eating something. So they'll be like this.
It's drooling.
They're in a state of hypnosis. It's actually done on purpose. And even people like Donald Trump, he's always like going like this. This is like hypnosis. So it's like, well, you know, I'm the greatest. I have the greatest words. But that's actually a hypnotic state that he's putting into. And it's actually also 666. It's 3 with the 6. So it's like 666. It's satanic. They're all these guys are all in the very satanic, very secret societies. And you just look at the back of the U.S. dollar. There's a pyramid with it all saying I, which most people don't seem to even notice. And if you put a pentagram over it, it spells out Mason. The Freemasons founded the U.S. for the most part. A lot of these secret societies.
So speaking of the whole scene, right? Have you been to Prague?
Yeah,
have you seen on top of every single church? There's the same eye.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly the same. Like one of the oldest cities in the world. That's Masonic. Yeah.
I wouldn't deem myself as being a religious person, but if you actually go through all the books and all the actual scriptures of life, they all talk about, you know, certain aspects of this and you know, whether it be the Antichrist or whatever, which is basically the world of what we seem. You know, you go to that propaganda outlet, which is a PR department for the the government.
No, I really have a lot of questions about the Bible because they really talk about the mark of the beast in the Bible, which is essentially where we're almost at right now, which is everyone's going to have a chip in them, in their phone or whatever. There's even talk about putting it in your body, but whatever it is, even if it's in your phone, and you won't be able to buy or do anything if they turn off your chip. So a person like me, I'll be one of the first to be turned off, obviously.
Don't worry, we'll hold hands and sing Kumbaya, Jeff.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I remember years ago it was like there was the propaganda outlets talking about, we want to get chips in everyone. But at the end of the day, like, you walk around and everyone's got their phone in hand.
It's pretty
like,
much
it's kind of reversed. It's like they don't actually need people to have chips, because how often, especially, you're 18 to 35 year old, how often do they have their phone not by their side for more than 30 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even sleeping, it sleeps next to your head, plugged it in, and it's a GPS signal, it's a recording device, it's a listening device.
Yeah. When you look at you're talking about the propaganda outlet, Jeff, when people like in front of the propaganda outlet, people are getting hit by cars and stuff now with their phone. They're like got a Snapchat of their dog face, or they've got like their face. They've got all ads and programs.
Zombies, those zombie movies, they're kind of real.
Yeah, they are kind of real.
Even the movie The Matrix, obviously, that was like so true about.
It was a documentary. It wasn't.
It was a
movie.
And a lot of people say, well, how did Hollywood put out a couple movies that actually told the truth? Well, really, most people don't know it's telling the truth, right? And a lot of people watch The Matrix, they'll be like, that was really cool. I loved how he dodged all the bullets and stuff. It's like, you don't realize what they're telling you about what life is. So some writers or whatever, they somehow get a few movies out through Hollywood that have a bit of truth. But even look at the people who wrote The Matrix. It was two guys, right?
Yeah.
Now 2 women.
I've forgotten their name, but they've written
they
a couple
got really
of different...
strange now. Like, I don't know what happened.
They've gone off the grid.
I have no
pushed
idea.
off the grid.
Yeah, something weird happened, right? But they did manage to get out a little bit of truth through that big black screen, which is in every room. We're sitting in front of one right now. And those are all just propaganda machines, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how hypnotized, how entranced most of the world is. And, sometimes I wonder, how much we should really be trying to help all these people, right? Because if they're that stupid, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I feel like there's something I need to tell people. Mm-hmm. And if they're awake enough and they hear it, great. And if they're not, great. There's only so much I can do.
That's right.
But the more that people can wake up, the better, in my opinion. Because, like even when we go through this crash, as I mentioned, if we go through this collapse and most people lose everything and no one has any idea why it happened, it's going to get really weird.
Well, the PR department will kick in on overdrive.
Yes,
it's like, no, this is...
It was the Chinese.
We need a bigger
government. We need a stronger Federal Reserve and a stronger government.
We'll protect you. Come into my hands.
We need you to have something in your wrist now so that we know.
Now, if you get the chip, this will never happen again. Everyone be lining up.
Yeah.
I think that, like, you guys with your communities of what, you have, and, over the years, I think that both myself and Mitch have learned different stuff of each other, different sides of the world and what we do. And with yourself, like we've learned a lot from you and sharing that knowledge. And even if it's just a YouTube video or a Facebook video, and it's something that people go, I'm getting ripped off, I'm getting lied to, I'm getting screwed over. And the ability to, make that change and that positive impact in their lives.
What's been really... I don't know what the word is, but very heartening to me is I go to a lot of places, and even just today, I just showed up in Sydney. You guys are already here, and you're like, we're going to get you a hotel room, and you're telling me these stories, and you're like, I'm on Australian TV telling them they're in the government indoctrination camps. I'm like, cool, man. So the things I'm doing are kind of spreading, it's kind of nice.
You have an impact, even though you haven't met us before.
Yeah,
like that, and
never met you guys.
There's probably people out there that have like the same things that Mitch has.
And it's ripple effect, and...
Don't say the word ripple in here.
There's only so much, and this is, I guess, where humans are flawed but also gifted at the same time. There's only so much pain, and this is where the waking up will happen. There's only so much pain that someone can go through before they're like, well, wait a second, I'm being told this, but I just can't believe it anymore because, I've been told this, I need to go to school, I need to do this, I need to go to university, I need to, get a 30-year loan and pay off my principal place of residence. I need to do that to be happy, and then I can, enjoy my life. There's only so many times that people will get shafted, that they'll get reamed, that they can go, well, I can't keep believing this. And, it's going to happen in stages. This is not going to be the first crash. There's going to be multiple after it, and it's going to cascade in waking people up.
I've actually sort of formulated it, and sometimes people ask me, am I a time traveller? It's like, I'm just looking at the dots, right? But I try and forecast every sort of thing that could happen in a case scenario into the future. Not that I'm an analytical person, but I like to look and be able to see what I'm going to be working with in the future. And looking at it, there's no way out apart from a hyperinflation of these currencies when they die. And people will have to wake up, and whether it's now or sometime in the future,
it's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Well, the thing that's really changed is the internet, right? Because before the internet, we would never know each other. You'd never know. I'd be just in some town in Mexico right now talking to a few people, and they'd be like, "He's weird."
Or you'd come to Australia and no one would know you were here.
Right. And we wouldn't know each other. You wouldn't, nothing like that. So that's the real thing that's happened. It's like
a supercharger. Like it adds steroids to the momentum of the
It's the biggest thing since the Gutenberg press. It's actually way better because it's two-way, right? Gutenberg was just one way. So we've had that for about 30 years now. It's finally really just coming to really make some changes now. Most people will still just be looking at cat videos and taking pictures of their
Fortnite, the game Fortnite or Flappy Bird or something.
But if you want, you have the opportunity to access any information you want. And now on top of that, we have one of the most important things in society is money. It's in every transaction that every single person in the world does every single day. So it's one half of every transaction, every person's life. So when you have a bad money, that creates really bad things, and that's what central banking is. And we've seen all that sort of stuff. Now we have the opportunity to actually have a decent money, a sound money, and that could be Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or EOS or whatever it is, whatever the market decides. It becomes one of those sort of currencies. We have that opportunity now, so we now have access to all the information that if you want to seek it, you can find it, and you have the ability to use a sound money for the first time across the world. We're going to see changes in the next few years that no one will believe. In good ways. We're talking about all the bad things that are going to happen. There's going to be so many amazing changes.
The definition of that is, out of all these bad things that happened, the good has come. Like Bitcoin was born after 2008.
It was
It was forced. So, and in saying that, Bitcoin in 10 or 20 years' time, it may not be what we see as Bitcoin now. It might have evolved into something else, a version 2 or version 3. We don't know what that is. But what we do know is cryptocurrency and distributed ledger technology is here to stay, and it will be here for a very long time.
Absolutely. The children, not just like the opportunity that we have to break away from this, system that's got us trapped and is robbing us every single day of the week, but the fact that a child in Africa would have the same opportunity as an adult in America, or, like the ability for people to be able to communicate using technology and be able to have the same sort of opportunities where beforehand those countries or those regions or those people have been left out and shunned out because of, whatever.
Well, that was one of the reasons why BTC was created, was all of these countries that are unbanked, like Vietnam, whereas 90% of people don't have a passport, a driver's license, or a bank account. So it's a big cultural thing here in Australia where the dad will leave his family in Vietnam or Thailand or the Philippines, come to Australia and work and send 80% of their money back. And they're using things like Western Union, which takes 20%. That's right. They take 20%, 25% of these guys that need the money the most.
And 3 business
days.
Yeah,
Western Union.
It's horrible. That's why
that's going to be gone within 3 years.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's still
I'm surprised.
I'm so surprised when you can send Litecoin and it takes 13 seconds. Bitcoin takes between 2 minutes and an hour, depending on the network.
And EOS, it's free.
And EOS, it's free to send. And speaking of that, like you've been an advocate for EOS. You were one of the first influencers that I saw that talked about that. Like you've seen, there's been good and bad that's been happening with It's a brand new technology, so there's been collusion happening, which Dan and Brennan have, jumped in, and they're making sure that people are being taken out, and big what's the word? There's a
lot of advancements that are happening there.
Yeah, there's a lot of advancements that are happening, and where do you see that now? Like it's almost been 4 or 5 months since
it's been 4 or 5 months. It's kind of funny, right? Like you're talking like, oh, there's been so many advancements in 4 or 5 months. It's amazing how fast everything changes.
It really is.
And there's been so many huge changes. In general, to keep this shorter, because I do want to go for dinner at some point here. But in general, I'm very happy with what I've been seeing with EOS so far. It's been pretty amazing to watch. It's a true free market thing.
Yeah.
I'm fairly connected and fairly involved, and I actually see what a lot of people are doing. I'm like, holy cow, like, if Apple or IBM wanted to do anything like what EOS is doing, it's just not possible.
They just don't have community, which is what this is.
There's just like thousands of really smart people all just like working together, and they have no real reason to work together. Like there's no, except for they all want this ecosystem to work. So
that's right.
You got these guys, and total respect to these guys. Like I've seen a lot of them. They're working like all day, all night. And all the Red Bulls and everything, and they're like, we got
to the EOS hackathon
here. We saw it firsthand.
Yeah,
48 hours of
super cool.
No sleep, and they had sanitary packs that they gave out. So
just roll on,
put some roll on, and leave it to go.
I believe it. It's crazy.
And I think that when you look at the current system of what we've got, and we're talking about like the potential downfall of the fiat Ponzi scheme, federal bank, central bank sort of system. A lot of people come and say, look, I haven't seen Apple join EOS, I haven't seen IBM join EOS. We've talked about it quite regularly. Like, this is a whole opportunity for, people that haven't had the opportunity to start their great ideas. The most wealthiest place in the world is a cemetery in the world, because people take the ideas to their grave. But the fact is that there's never been an opportunity for someone with money and someone with an idea to actually get together, as well as
without an intermediary.
And it's giving people the opportunity to create whatever they want. So these large scale organizations or corporations that are using the propaganda outlets out there, people are able to actually just start their own thing and be able to create massive sort of.
Yeah, I think we have no idea. That's what I said earlier. We can't even predict where this is going to go. There's never been anything like this before. And you've got thousands of people, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, all, there's people with capital who are investing capital. There's programmers, there's entrepreneurs with ideas. And now they've got platforms, and not just EOS, but it's Ethereum or whatever other platforms. And they're all just going for it. And there's going to be some massive, multi-$100 billion or even $1 trillion sort of things come out of these things. It's going to be amazing, and a lot of things are going to go to zero.
And then you've got things like Liverland, which we don't really have time to go into it, but it's something that you're pretty behind. That you're a diplomat, from what I heard of Liverland, which is you incorporate something like EOS or a blockchain, and you've got this country which is without taxation. Doesn't have mandatory taxation. It has voluntary. And you've got, the real world meeting up with the digital world, which is what really excites me.
Yeah, like when I think about all the things that are happening, so talking about like politically, like Liberland is a new country, which is basically a narco-capitalist country. And there's numerous other ones being developed right now. Even Roger Ver is trying to buy an island and create another one. And like, there's so many people doing so many things right now that are all on my wavelength and probably your guys' wavelength. It's like, this is really cool. That's really cool. You can't even keep up with it. Like, this has been an explosion that's been going on. And this stuff, 20 years ago, there was nothing. So this came out of the blue. I don't know who to credit exactly. I know Ron Paul had a big part of it. I know so many people, Ludwig Mises, Murray Rothbard, go way back, who really made this happen, but I think it's just the time is right. I think there's
enough working up people that can get behind it, and that's going to propel it forward.
Like no one's going to believe what's going to happen. Even Acapulco is a good example of that. We've been doubling every year since we started about 5 years ago.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we sign off? Because that's something that I want to come, and I was supposed to go next year, but I listened to the propaganda outlets too much, and the girlfriend was like, "You are not going. You are not going. You're going to die, or lose all your crypto, get held hostage, or you're going to die." So do you want to?
You actually streamed it this year live, and I downloaded and watched it and stuff, and it was so awesome to be able to watch it. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, even if you can't make it, you streamed it. It was like,
but the propaganda on the thing, the inside thing is that there's billionaires actually buying all the property in Acapulco right now, so they put out all this media so that they can get the property prices down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's funny.
But we were thinking about just, we've got a security guard that does stuff.
You don't bring him over. No.
Really?
Oh, God.
Really?
It's more dangerous here in Sydney than Acapulco for us.
That's why we've got the lockout laws. You can't get into a pub after 1 a.m.
Seriously. Like, I tell everyone who believes what they see on the television, once you come to Acapulco, tell me what you think. And a lot of them are like, I'm scared to go, I'm scared. And then afterwards, like, It's the nicest place I've ever been in my life. I can't believe I fell for it. And that's, as a world traveler, that's one of the things that woke me up. After I sold my internet company after the tech bubble burst in 2000, I looked into Federal Reserve and all that stuff. I'm like, what? I should know this stuff. And then the second thing I was thinking is, I'm going to travel the world because I don't think what they're saying on that television programming is exactly right. And I went to like 100 countries.
Yeah, you went to Ghana recently, right? And
no, not Ghana, Somalia.
Somalia, sorry.
Yeah.
Every
place, everything they say on television about a place is wrong.
Yeah, wow.
And they're almost always really nice.
Yeah.
Like there's problems in certain places. Like here in Australia, it's $30 for cigarettes, and there's a bunch of bombs on the street.
The Australian Tourism Department basically has as like high alert that if you go there, like
it sounds like the Truman Show. Don't swim out past that line out there.
It literally is.
Yeah.
Doug Casey, who's basically a mentor of mine, used to say 20 years ago, and I didn't fully understand it, but I fully understand it now. Is if he wants to go on a trip, first thing he checks is where the U.S. State Department says is red alert, because he knows it's probably really nice. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Jeff. Where do we find out more information about all of us?
I'll put this on my channel too, so you guys can
we run a premium cryptocurrency education program. It's called keystofreedom.com. So you can find us at keystofreedom.com. There's an About Me page, a little bit about my background. I also started a tech company, did pretty well with it, sold that. And that's how I found Bitcoin. And tell us a little bit about Nathan.
You go ahead.
Jeff?
You go ahead. I'll finish it.
Okay, cool. Just look at myself, investor, financial analysis out there, and an entrepreneur. And I run a fair few different types of businesses. My main one is beinvested.com.au. And beside that, I've got a decentralized version of myself, which isn't the TV sort of version on the propaganda outlets, which is Be Decentralized with an S here in Australia. And a lot of people can Google me from Nathan Birch with the BIRCH surname. So,
that's awesome. And if you don't know me, I don't know where you've been, but the Dollar Vigilante, DollarVigilante.com, YouTube Dollar Vigilante, and come check out Anarchobook. You guys got to check it out. It's going to be about 3,000 people, February 14th to 17th of this coming week.
And tickets are really, really cheap from what I hear.
We're not trying to make a fortune by doing it. It's a passion, so. It's not that easy to get to Acapulco for most people, especially from Australia. Yeah. But even from the U.S., you're going to have to probably take 2 flights. And so, we could charge way more because I've seen other conferences, they charge double,
I paid $7,000 US for a
I've heard crazy numbers. But I'm like, we want to make some money so we can pay for all the stuff we need to do and, maybe a little profit. I'm an anarcho-capitalist, but we're not trying to make a fortune by doing this. We're trying to, make it the coolest thing really going. And you guys will see. In 2019, I guarantee it, no one's going to believe what we're going to do. I haven't told anyone what we're doing yet. It's going to shock the world.
Well, I will give you a challenge. This guy does not fly.
I don't fly on aeroplanes. And I actually thought about it, right? And I actually was sitting there in February this year when and I was like, I want to fly. It could be the first time. I've got a passport sitting there, no stamps to it. I'm scared of the planes, right? And
as in he won't fly to Queensland or Perth.
Oh, yeah.
Like he won't fly, period.
Yeah, I just take sleeping pills. I don't take tablets and medications. Maybe I might have a few drinks.
Yeah, I have 10 scotches or something. Yeah, we'll do that. It's not that scary.
But I was really surprised as well, the actual content that you provided and the actual level of talent that you had this year. You're pulling some very good people out there.
This coming year we got Ron Paul, Judge Napolitano, Doug Casey, David Icke. who I'm a big fan of. Cynthia McKinney, it goes on and on. We haven't announced most of the things we're doing, and we haven't gotten into the concerts of some of the top rappers in the world will be there. Yeah, it's going to be on.
Going to make a new Bitcoin song?
I might be working on something, yeah.
I've got one to show you as well. You actually inspired me to do a rap. I'll show it to you offline.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
For speaking with us. It's been awesome, really cool.
Cheers.
Wow. What an incredible interview. It is now the next day. I'm a little bit hungover. We ended up going out with Jeff and, having a good chat off camera. And hopefully he's going to be back in Sydney really, really soon. And I hope you enjoyed all the insights that Nathan and myself gave on that interview. It was very kind of out of this world. there was a lot of ideas and theories and stuff spoken about that you guys may or may not have heard of before. So it was heaps of fun, and I really enjoyed doing it. So if you guys have any specific questions for myself or Jeff, I'll put in the description below a link to his channel and some of his videos. And yeah, be sure to leave a comment, leave a question, give the video a thumbs up. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And yeah, we'll keep bringing this stuff to you. Thanks so much. See ya.